welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today I'm going to do a story titled Easter Throwaway Husband. And a shout out to Bill for sending this story. And guys, this story is about a young husband who handles things like a boss. Upon finding out that his wife, who he thought was pretty darn amazing, a churchgoer, same values, supposedly raised the same way as him, wonderful, great, all that, turned out to be a big giant cheater, and he finds out in a very all too typical fashion. And upon finding this out, like I said in the beginning, handles it like a boss. No begging her to change, begging for a second chance, meltdowns in front of her. Nope. Cold and calculating. And this ends on a high note for him. And that'll be a great one to go over here, guys, showing you how you got to handle things if, in fact, you do unfortunately find yourself in this situation. And you're going to see this guy is as human as the rest of us. He is deeply hurt by this, understandable, but he doesn't let the hurt make him or push him towards making the wrong decision. Now, a couple of things real quick, guys. Number one, this story is actually 4 years old. But this is the first time I've seen this before, so this is why I'm covering it. And second thing, this story is a little longer than I like to do one video, so I'm going to be splitting this up into two parts. So if you don't want to be hanging around for a cliffhanger for a couple hours, you can come back later, and I will do part 2 in 2 hours. But if you guys are already here, want to hear it, and I've already roped you in, watch it, and you'll see part 2 in 2 hours after I publish this. So it starts off, says here, I, a 28-year-old male, found evidence that my wife, a 27-year-old female, was having an affair on Easter Sunday. Oh, what a great time to find that out. The next day I confronted her with the evidence. I left her and have not spoken to her, nor do I plan to. We are, in fact, divorcing. But I feel like even that is pointless gesture, as utterly destroyed as I am. Well, my wife and I had what I thought was the perfect relationship. We were best friends and seemed to benefit each other in a multitude of ways. Were they best friends before getting married, or became supposedly best friends in a relationship? Because either way actually is not so good, because when you see your girl more as your best friend, she might stop seeing you in that romantic sense and need to get her action elsewhere. Just pointing that out. We grew up together and dated our last 2 years of high school all the way through college. Physically, we were each other's first everything as of the sexual nature department. We attended the same university in different fields of study and married 2 years after graduation. Smack! Way too soon. Probably 24 years old, give or take. We moved to a major city near our hometown to be near our families. I got a job as an engineer making very decent salary with benefits, and she got a job teaching at a high-profile private school, which she loved. Well, aside from getting married too young, in my opinion, so far so good. What could go wrong? Well, together we made very good money, so we always spent so much time together. We traveled, we dined out frequently, and every night felt like a date night. Even among a group of friends, that was always the two of us together. We were so stupidly happy that they could have put our goofy love grins as a sample photo and picture frames for sale. One of those couples, huh, that you just want to smack sometimes, huh? You go to Target or Walmart or see the picture frames and you see that couple they have there that, you just want to smack. That's them. Our SEX life was great and had always been. Less than 4 times a week was considered a dry spell for us. We had a great life in general. Well, at least that's what I thought. I thought we had a great life together, but I've come to realize all of it was a lie. We were planning to try and have children soon. This totally blindsided me. I cannot stop crying. I want to be a father someday. Now that is an impossibility. So he's admitting, yeah, he's crying. He's hurt by this. I got no problem with that. Some of these guys are like, nope, never cry. That's stupid because you got to let the emotions out. Just don't let them out in front of your wife or girlfriend or anybody else. Go to a place, you can be on your own, let it out, get out of your system. Otherwise, you're a ticking time bomb. Then when you let it out, then you can plan for the future. On Easter morning, at the break of dawn, we were supposed to help out at our church, hiding Easter eggs on the property for kids to find out later. We got up and threw on some clothes without showering before driving to the church together. We groggily helped hide obvious eggs for the small children and more secretive spots for the eggs for the older kids later that day. My wife took many pictures on her phone for us, as well as many members of the congregation. We all ended up having coffee and donuts while conversing before heading home. I had driven to the church, but I got my wife to drive us home. She commented that she was going to go back to bed for a few hours when we got back home. I wanted to preview the college basketball championship game that next night because my father was a Baylor graduate. We brought my wife's iPad along, which I used all the time, like it was my very own. I never expected to see anything, and she didn't anticipate showing me anything. Well, clearly there's a lot more on that iPad than hiding Easter eggs and such. I'm not very tech savvy, so I still don't know what happened exactly, but I was reading an article as we were walking into the house. In the lower right corner, an icon appeared that said something about photos, then picture after picture appeared on top of the other. I don't know if my wife's phone was synced to the iPad or the Wi-Fi. Again, I'm at a loss. I saw the pictures, which were the ones my wife had just taken minutes before outside the church, so I continued reading. Suddenly, a few pictures flashed by that looked a lot like they contained nudity, which is very out of character for my wife. Here we go. Easter eggs and baskets and coffee and donuts at church, and all of a sudden, whoa, the fuck is that? Yep. Remember, he thought he had the perfect marriage, perfect wife, church going, all that, wholesome. We're hooking up multiple times a week. We're so perfect that we could be picture frame couple. And here we go. Well, I tried tapping on the pictures to go back, but it was like the photos weren't on the iPad. It just showed each one to me for a split second. I opened the photo file on the iPad, but nothing remotely pornographic was stored on the iPad that I could find. Yet I did see them flash by. My wife went into the kitchen and got a bottle of water to take with her as she headed back to bed. I watched her walk up the stairs, and for the first time in the history of our relationship, I felt like she might be hiding something from me. Yeah, dude, I think so, if you're seeing butt-naked pictures of her flashing by on the screen. Well, I searched every file I could on the iPad, hoping I could find what I'd seen. But I eventually realized, to ease my mind, I'd have to check my wife's phone. I walked upstairs and found her sleeping soundly in our bed. I grabbed her phone off the charger and took it into our bathroom. Well, we never had an open or closed phone policy. We just used each other's devices at will with nothing to hide. So, discovering that her passcode had been changed made my heart nearly skip. I tried again and again at different speeds. No doubt it had been changed. You're connecting all the dots here. There's a reason why it's been changed. And I gotta say here, this poor bastard. You know? This is all too common. Well, my eyes welled up with tears just knowing my wife was probably hiding something from me. It was a sign that there was something unknown to me that I truly need to know. I walked back in the bedroom and placed her phone back on the charger. Part of me wanted to believe I was crazy or that I thought I saw something risque, but my mind was playing tricks on me. I actually imagined discovering what I saw was nothing carnal and laughing about what I thought it actually was, but the passcode got me. That's the worst part, guys. He knows something's up. He doesn't want to believe something's up, but he knows something's up. And he can't get into the damn phone because she changed her password. Well, I tried acting as normally as possible. She knew me better than anybody else, so trying to keep all emotions welled up while at the same time being sneaky was very difficult. But late that afternoon, when she was in the kitchen, I heard her text alert. I popped around the corner just in time to see her enter a brand new code. So I knew I wasn't losing my mind completely. Later that night, after she'd gone to bed, I again took her phone into the bathroom. I entered the new code and opened the photos file. Does this guy have, eagle-eyed vision that he can, actually, see her entering 1657 or whatever the hell whatever her code is? Wow. Well, to my surprise, nothing close to photo-contained nudity was anywhere to be on the phone. I even found the photos she'd taken at the church that morning. Nothing spicy was among them. I was just about to close the app when I decided to look for the deleted photos. Don't forget the deleted files, guys. And also don't forget there's other places she can store them. They could be in her Instagram messages or some other app she has and is stored on that particular app. Well, to my surprise, I found 2 photos of my wife nude and partially nude, along with a naked shot of some guy other than me. Okay, he wasn't going crazy. Now take snapshots. Take evidence of this. I quickly sent all 3 pictures to my own phone, then deleted that text as well as the photos. I placed my wife's phone back in the holder, walked downstairs, and to make less noise, and I vomited. Yeah, that'd probably make me barf too. I'd never seen either picture of my wife before. She didn't do that sort of thing, and I didn't really desire it. I could always have her to myself soon enough given the next opportunity, and I already knew how beautiful she was naked. We just felt like photos like that could always come back to haunt people. They do come back to haunt you. You're an idiot if you take pictures on a phone or anything else or record doing things. You never know, guys. Some people get off on that, but I'm telling you, it's not a good idea. Well, she and I were too united as one. We had no need to share our intimacy with the world. Or so I thought. I sure didn't know who the guy was in the picture. I looked at it and felt angrier than I ever had before, having no idea who he was or if my wife knew him in any way. After I stopped throwing my guts up, I lay on the floor and cried like a little child. I never cried hard in my life, but I just knew something was wrong. I could feel it. I got a few hours of sleep next to my wife that night before I had to get up and go to work. Well, obviously, brother, something's wrong. He doesn't have evidence of text messages and all that, but if you see your wife butt naked pictures on her phone that she's hidden away in the delete files, and some other guy, obviously something's going on here, but he wants more evidence. This poor guy. Well, every project I was working on got put on hold as I researched how to recover text from a phone. As it turns out, since the plan we had was in my name through my employer, I could access every single message and picture sent via text. Long story short, I recovered raunchy messages, selfies, and yes, even pictures and videos together. All there. I can say I went and vomited again, but I was dry heaving. I got rid of the last thing I could throw up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, I like the fact that this guy's decisive. I mean, I would imagine all you would be too upon finding things like this, but boom, it's in his name, he got it, all the evidence. Now it's time to get the fuck out of there and destroy her. Well, I went down to my car and cried so hard I thought my eyes would bleed. I couldn't imagine the nightmare I was living was real. But I knew instantly everything with my wife, my best friend, was over, and every dream I had was gone. I yelled primal screams of rage, and I was thankful she wasn't there at the moment of my discovery. I didn't know what I was capable of, and I didn't want her to see me like that. I couldn't think what to do, where to go, or who to call. I was just in shock at the person I would have turned to at a time like that. That was the very person who had destroyed me. Well, all I can say is to this guy and all the guys out there like this that go through this shit, you're not alone. Unfortunately, you're not alone. I stopped crying and just sat there in a complete daze, unsure what to do, but certain I didn't want to do anything. I knew what had started off as an unproductive morning was certain to be an unproductive day. I went back inside, met with each team member on the company project that we were doing, and then I left work. I didn't even want to look at my wife, so I certainly wasn't going to be able to be by her school to comfort her. I just drove around for a few hours in complete and total shock. I went from tears to rage and back again. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. I thought of emailing her and both our families all the information that I'd found and then driving my car off a ravine. No, dude, do not end it over an asshole like her. I don't blame him for feeling this way, but you can't, guys. I truly didn't want to continue living, and I certainly didn't want to deal with the confrontation in our marriage once and for all. Well, my wife usually got home a few hours from work before I did, so I parked down the street from her school to see where she went and where she got off from work. I had in my mind, from what I'd found, that she'd probably head to her lover's house for a quickie after work. But she left and went straight home, oblivious that I was following her most of the way. Well, I printed out the pages and pages of text and pictures at work to show her what I knew. I anticipated confronting her and her denying everything and anything until I showed her proof, leading to much more conversation and fighting. I didn't want that. I didn't want to ever lay eyes on her again, talk to her, or be in her life ever again. Those pictures in particular ended all love I had for her in an instant. In fact, in the course of the day, I went from loving her more than I knew possible, from a human to love, to hating her with every fiber of my being. Well, there's the saying, there's a thin line between love and hate. But the true opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. And he is most certainly not indifferent at this point. But I can see how the love is gone. How could she do this to me was mind-boggling. We were done the second she cheated. I was just the last to get the memo. My mind was all over the place. I just wanted to go in the house, pack a bag, and leave without her seeing or saying a word possible. When I walked in the front door, she was sitting on the couch, texting. Of course she was texting. She may have been texting her mom, her sister, most anyone, but I knew she wasn't texting me. And that day I learned the odds were high that she was busy doing more things that could cause me more pain. Well, she smiled and noted that I was home from work early. I didn't say a word to her. I just walked down the hall into our bedroom. I got a suitcase out of the closet and began packing clothes for the work week for my stay at the hotel. She came into the bedroom, saw me packing, and asked if I had to go on a sudden business trip. She's probably thinking, yes, he's going away. I'm going to get all the freaking dick I want. I stopped what I was doing, looked directly at her with a stare of absolute loathing, and continued packing. She walked up to me, asked me what was wrong, and placed her hand on my back. Yeah, he's thinking, I want to chop that fucking hand off. I recoiled from her, touch like I just had a dead animal carcass filled with maggots touch me. I turned and yelled at her loudly to never touch me again before pushing her away. Uh-oh. Nobody can blame him for doing that, but you can't, because all she has to say is, he got physical. Just mentioning that. When she tried to ask what was wrong, I called her a disease-filled WHRE that deserved to have a fiery hot poker inserted into her privates to keep her from procreating. Damn, dude. She had the audacity to look shocked and hurt. That's when I pulled out the stack of papers I'd copied, threw them under the bed, closed my suitcase, and began to leave. She sat down to look at the papers. Before I got down the hall, I heard her scream, "No!" before breaking down into, wait for it, tears and running to catch me. All the fucking evidence is there. No! Now she's fucking crying, really? Well, I made it out the door to my car and threw my suitcase in the back. She managed to make it outside before I pulled away. I can see her like jumping on the fucking hood of the car as he's driving down the street. I extended my middle finger in her direction as I drove away. My phone started going off like a casino slot machine, so I just turned it off. My plan was to completely ghost her and let whatever steps needed to be done for divorce take care of by my lawyer. I didn't want to know how they met, why it happened, and what exactly had occurred between them. She knew damn well infidelity was a deal breaker with me. Why she was even calling, I had no idea, but I didn't care. Because she wanted both. You think she has her persona, how she's seen by the public, by the church folks, and how she really is. And by her getting divorced and getting exposed, that ruins who she is. And I guarantee that lover of hers isn't going to be the next good husband material. Well, I got a motel room about a mile from my job and checked in. I walked to an adjacent restaurant and forced down some food, even though I didn't want to eat. Back in the room, I used the motel phone to call my mom and tell her where I was. My mom had been worried, as she'd been one of the first people my wife called after I left. I asked my mom if she'd been told why I left, and she admitted she had not. Of course, there's no way the wife's going to admit it. I told her what I found, explained we would be divorcing, and I'd be looking for a job in another state. So I never had to run into my soon-to-be ex or any of her family ever again. I asked her to please keep what she knew between her, my dad, and siblings. My mom cried. I wasn't there to see it, but it sounded like ugly crying and disbelief. But the realization my wife and her family were no longer part of our lives hurt her. I'm sure knowing that she'd never hold a grandchild fathered by me hurt a lot too. But she knew how I was raised, and she also knew that I was done. I was exhausted after the call of my mom, so I cried myself to sleep only to be awakened by a knock at the door around midnight. Gee, who could it be? I got up and looked out the peephole to see my soon-to-be ex anxiously waiting for me to open the door. How the fuck did she find him? Well, I have my theories. I couldn't grasp how she found me, much the less figured out what room I was in, but I did not want to see her or hear from her again. I wouldn't put it past his wife to actually have some kind of tracker on his car or phone, so when she's out up to no good, she'd know exactly where he was. Seriously. That's probably how she found him. After what she did to me, she lost any right to even look in my general direction. So again, I used the motel phone. But instead of calling my mom, I called the local police. I stayed in the line explaining the situation as they sent 2 officers to stop by. I watched as the police removed my soon-to-be ex from the front door and led her over to the squad car. Now, that's the part that seems a little off to me. Unless she was causing a major disturbance or something like that. But okay, you never know. Then one officer knocked on the door, and I let him in the room. He assured me they wouldn't let my wife in and asked me how I wanted to proceed. I explained I wanted her to leave me alone, and I wanted absolutely no contact with her ever again. He and I filled out all the necessary paperwork for a restraining order. He made sure the RO was what I wanted, since it would limit me from being able to go back to my house or me to gather things without a police escort. Well, that's the truth. He can't go back to the house without a police escort. Again, this seems a little that this could be done so easily there without going to the police station and all that, but you never know, depending on where you live, what the laws are. Okay, fine. I still think this story is real, but, I told him I never wanted to ever enter that house again. I was done with her, and she could have it, and the rest of our belongings. He got her to sign the RO. I watched her and the cops drive away, then went back to bed for a few hours. And that, gents, is where I'm going to wrap things up for part 1. Part 2 is where the boss mode really kicks in terms of how he handles things with the lawyer, what he wants, and with her and all that. So stop yelling at me, and I will see you in 2 hours. See you then.